welcome again, my lovely audience, and I'm so happy to continue our show, our really diverse show, because I'm so proud and I'm so grateful to all my participants. They are so really amazing persons, and I'm so blessed to have all of you in my life, and you are doing very great cause, and especially because you are giving me the most important you have, it's your time and attention. It's actually these gifts that probably we are sometimes underestimate. So today it's already episode number 16, and we have very interesting and special guest. And the title of my podcast, I decided to give like this: Enhancing the Mind. And you will be understanding why very shortly. So welcome to our great show. And today we have a very special guest, incredibly with really diversified portfolio. You will see. It's Dr. Justin Tausig, right?
Yes.
I was double checking just his name just for 5 minutes ago. So Dr. Justin is not just a fencing master, but a multifaceted creative force, an author, screenwriter, and someone who deeply understands the psychological and therapeutic elements. With a remarkable career in both competitive athletes and mental health, Dr. Justin is a six-time member of the United States national fencing team. Did I say it correct? Six?
Yeah,
Yeah.
6. Yeah.
And the four-time world championship team member. He has competed at the highest levels, earning medals in events like the Pan American Games and World Cups. But beyond his athletic accomplishment, he works with athletes of all levels, from junior high to Olympic medalists, helping them optimize their mental and emotional performance. He holds a doctorate in sport and performance psychology and has been featured in top fencing publications. And in 2020, he was inducted in the USA Fencing Hall of Fame. Congratulations. So we are so thrilled to dive into your unique, really diverse blend of experience in sport and psychology today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
And then we just dive and immediately in a very beautiful part of our show, I think, because it's so different all the time, and I love this part probably mostly because it's something nice and warm in my soul and kind. Because when I'm reflecting of my childhood, even though it was not that problemless, but still it's very special and magic time. So and now we actually are going really to speak about magic, because I know a little bit already about yes, fairy tales and magic in your childhood, because we have a little bit conversation in advance, and then I'm just envy my audience because it's very special story. Yes, and now you know. So can you please share with us about little Justin, who he was, this magical boy, and of course how this magic, what has happened to him, I'm just opening a little bit, have impact his life and actually life of many other people who you have impact. So please welcome,
Okay.
introduce to.
Yeah. Okay. So, little Justin. I was the youngest in a family of 6, and from a very early age, I viewed things, I guess, a little differently than my siblings did and my parents did. And I think in some ways, it made it very difficult for my parents to parent me, because I had so many different reactions to my environment and things in my life. And so I looked for meaning in a lot of different places. I read very early, and so at a very advanced level, in part because I wanted to read what my older siblings were reading. And so I looked for meaning in books. I looked for meaning in movies when they were on television. I looked all around. When I was 3 years old, I saw the 1950s movie Ivanhoe with Robert Taylor and Elizabeth Taylor when it was on television. And I decided, okay, now I know what I want to do with my life. I want to be a knight. I want to knock people off their horses and rescue Elizabeth Taylor and all of that. And a few years later, I saw my first Errol Flynn movie. And I thought, this is even better. No horse, no armor, just sword play and this incredible, charismatic person. And my love of that genre of films continued throughout my childhood. And when I was 12 years old, there was an article in the New York Times that my father saw, and he clipped it out for me, about a famous fencing master named Giorgio Santelli. And and I read the article, and all I could think of was, I want to meet this person. He really seems very interesting. It took me a few weeks to get my courage up. I was pretty shy and 12, but I looked his name up in the phone book and I called him and I said, I read the New York Times article. I would like to meet you.
Wow, incredible.
And
Not that shy after all. Anyway, my career.
yeah, it was really, it was important, and certainly a big step in my life. So he said, okay, come over the next day, or I don't remember what the timing was, but I rode my bike over to his house, and there he was giving a fencing lesson in the street in front of his house. And once the lesson ended, he came over to me and we started talking. And a few minutes later, he had me in a fencing posture, moving forward and backward in the street. And then he looked at me and he said, "You're going to be my student."
Wow.
And that moment really changed my life. He believed in me. He believed I had value in a way and at a time when I was still struggling with my own identity and trying to figure out if I felt I had value. And his belief in me really propelled me forward in a lot of different ways. And so I worked with him until he passed away a few years later, which was certainly very difficult for me. And he had become a second father to me, and really brought me into his family, and I became quite close with his wife and his daughter, and it was really a wonderful experience getting to know him and getting to know them. And as much as he taught me about fencing, I think he was also dropping little bits of wisdom into the conversations we had about life in general. And I still make use of some of the things he told me and some of the things that I learned from those conversations. And one of the things he had told me was that if I really wanted to find out how good I could be at fencing, that I needed to go and train where the best were. And at that time, for the weapon style that I fenced, which was épée, that meant either Paris or Milan. And when I was finishing up my bachelor's degree, I thought about what I wanted to do with my life once I earned that degree. And then I remembered what he had told me all those years ago about trying to find out. And I used the French department of my university because my French was very poor at the time. And I wrote a letter to the Racing Club de France, which was a famous fencing club in Paris. And I asked permission to go and train there. And I received a very quick response, also in French, which basically said, yes, we would love to have you present yourself at this time and at this address on this date, and we'll get you started. So I moved to Paris, August 21st, 1993.
Wow.
To find out, to chase the dream and find out how good I could be at fencing. And
wow.
it worked.
What a story. It's magical, inspiring. It's wow, it's really breathtaking, because this guy, just 12 years old, which, like you said, a little bit shy, and just of course it's not like now you just Google and it's so much easier to find the information, but you really figure it out. And yeah, your determinations and following your dream, and it's very special dream. So I'm actually, guys, I can open a little bit story. I'm already familiar with this story a little bit, and the first time when Justin has been sharing, I feel the goosebumps. It's the same now. Even I could hear it just a couple of days ago. It's still the same reaction. So wow. So, and the magic. And can you imagine this? Your, like you said, second father, right? I don't believe in coincidence, because we all have destinies and how we shape it, of course. Imagine he also understood and appreciated your encourages and everything. And I'm sure that he did something very special to you, and he was like mostly mentor, right? And wow, like you said, that you've been taken as a part of his family. It's so beautiful story. It's really, it's for me like magic of knights and sword, but most about beautiful values in our heart, which we should really cherish, right? So yes, amazing. And okay, and you decided to follow your dream. So now we actually are in Paris, right? And I already can just imagine, like, you come there. And how old were you actually when you moved to Paris?
I was 23.
23, okay. And yes, and you're French and everything, but right, still you magical imagination. But okay, imagination is one thing, and many people, they really dream, but to proceed, to be so sure that I want to try it, right? And can you please, it's so inspiring story, and I know it's just the beginning of diversifying your story. So please, not my fountain with a lot of word. Now please just continue your beautiful story. I will ask about all this diversity thing afterwards. Just continue.
Of course. So at the time when I moved to Paris, I was not ranked in the United States in fencing. So it really seemed like a tremendous risk and a real leap of faith. I knew one person in the entire country, and I didn't know French hardly. I mean, I had taken some French in high school and in university, but I didn't know the language. I wasn't comfortable in the language. And so it was a difficult transition for me. And I was not a good fencer when I moved there at all. And when I first started fencing on the World Cup circuit, I lost in the first round of every World Cup I fenced in that season.
Oh, wow.
Which was humiliating for me, and particularly the last competition of that season, which in retrospect, I think it was probably the most significant result of my career, because I finished last. I finished absolutely last. And when you look down the list of names and there's your name at the bottom, I felt embarrassed. I felt humiliated. I felt very small. I thought, am I wasting my time? What am I doing? And it was clear to me that I couldn't continue the way I had been training and viewing myself in the sport, because obviously it wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
So I really had two choices in front of me. Either I could quit and just move back to New York, or I would have to completely change the way I viewed myself within the sport of fencing. And in those years, there was no internet, there was no YouTube. Fencing competitions were not streamed online. So if you wanted to see top level fencing, you had to actually physically be at the competitions. So
Okay.
when I lost so
Mm-hmm.
early at these World Cups, I never left the venue early. I stayed until the last touch was scored of the very last match, because I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to try and learn as much as I could. And one of the many things that I learned was this: most top athletes, regardless of sport, they have a hook around which they build their game,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're very tall or very fast or very strong. That's what they build their game around. And when I looked at myself objectively in a mirror, I didn't have any of those qualities. I'm 6'4", so I'm fairly tall, but there were fencers on the World Cup circuit who were 6'7", 6'8", much taller than me. So I couldn't base my game around height. My hand speed is pretty good, but my foot speed was average, so I couldn't base my game around speed.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the body of an asparagus. I was never going to overpower anyone, so I couldn't base it around strength. So what could I do that would allow me to be successful against these fantastic athletes, the best athletes in the sport? One of the qualities of a sport of combat is there is no attack that can't be defended against, and there is no defense that can't be penetrated. So
Mm-hmm.
it's never a question of, this is easy, I will simply stick up my arm and hit someone. There's a lot more that goes into it. And what I thought about during that summer of 1995, when I really tried to think about what I could do differently,
Mm-hmm.
was someone who bases their game around speed. If I could slow them down, maybe they would lose a little bit of confidence, because that's not how they like to fence. That's not how they trained. Someone who was really strong, if I put them in a situation where they couldn't use that physical strength, the same thing, their confidence might drop, their frustration might increase, and then maybe I would have a chance. At the end of that summer, I sat down with my fencing master, Stéphane Ribou, and we had a conversation much like this one. And I said, this is what I've come up with as a possible solution. Does this make any sense at all? Or am I just like a drowning man reaching around for anything that might keep me from sinking?
Mm-hmm.
And he thought about it and he said, no, this could be very interesting. We'll see how it works in competition. But in the meantime, we'll have to change the way that you train. So we very much changed my training style, and I started using this very adaptive style,
Mm-hmm.
which worked more against the top level fencers who had these tremendous athletic gifts, because
Mm-hmm.
they were reliant on those gifts.
Mm-hmm.
So I trained myself to be uncomfortable, to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and to not be reliant on a particular style or a particular game, but instead be very adaptive. And 2.5 years later, I was on the national team for the United States. It was that quick a turnaround once I started using this very adaptive style, which allowed me to have success against some of the top fencers in my sport.
You know, while you were presenting your story now, what hit to me that it's amazing how actually it fits for our subject, because first of all, diversity, right? Diversity, you really have presented here resilience. You never gave up. It's one thing, but because you really approached at this summer, you really approached the strategy with diversified look. From here I could even probably use like topic or subject like diversity of thoughts of mind, because it was completely opposite probably what could have happened most likely with 90% of people, because they could understand that okay, it's not very special diversified um, mindset, that okay, look at me, I, like you said about hook, right? I'm not that tall, not this, not that. And usually it's true, it's a lot of training strategies, they are built around your strength. You should really practice on it, right? And most likely people who probably not using really diversifying our mindset, they could, oh okay, I can't find this special strength in me, then I should quit, right? But because you really use because you actually switched it totally, and diversity it's about actually changing the perspective, right? It just thinking out of box. And it's amazing that you have chosen this diverse strategy, plus of course your determination and your resilience, right? And that became your game changer. So our podcast diversity is the game changer. It's like it's brilliantly like your actually story, right? And then you already mentioned that then it actually gave the result quite fast. But okay, a lot of work, it's a lot of training. It's not when you are present, because also fencing is very present sport. So it doesn't feel like it just like this, because you should be present every single minute, right? Like, it's like really mindful sport. You cannot dance, but do be somewhere and just time is flying. No, you should be here fully 24/7 every single minute, right? So beautiful story, thank you so much. And it's actually about, really now we talk about mindset, about thoughts, about psychological approach to this, which is which you could build them so beautifully together, right? So for me now, my next question is, it's yes, it's actually diversity of approach, but I have already probably answered that instead of you, right, by my analytical brain. But and then the second subject, which I actually put in my plan, was the mind and the blade, right? So you master both the physical and mental aspects of fencing. Looking at this sport, people usually believe it's just about speed and precision, right? But I assume, and already I know, there is a deeper layer psychologically and strategically. So what you could say us and other people actually about the link between fencing and mental wellness?
I think it's a very strong link. As I said before about my very adaptive style, I didn't win many matches because I was faster than someone or stronger than someone or taller than someone. I won matches because I found ways to manufacture hits and found ways to put my opponent in situations that he didn't want to be in, and didn't allow them to play the sort of game that they wanted. And when you neutralize your opponent's wishes, you crush their soul a little bit, because all of a sudden, all of their plans, all of the ideas that they want to try and do, you take that away from them. And then they have to start creating on the spot, in the moment, a different strategy, which maybe they haven't thought about so much. So I think that the link is very, very strong. I used a lot of mindfulness at the time. I used meditation. I used breathing techniques. I used lots of different things. Anything I could that would allow me to compete and allow me to express myself athletically in competition.
Amazing, amazing. Every time I'm speaking with you great souls who are in my show, and it's so interesting to understand we're speaking kind of about diversity and what make us different, but it's the beauty that we are probably different, I don't know, in domains and industries, but the core values, it's actually the same, and now you also mentioned the meditation, mindfulness and everything, because I'm using that every day, and affirmations, right? And gratitude and positive thinking, and not critical self-talk and self-esteem, right? And it's so important to be really grounded and to have emotional resilience, because like you said, if you really found the strategy to anti-hook these people, right? So of course they can be, and they begin to be frustrated, but also for them mentally, right? Self-esteem, self-worth, it was like, wow, what's happening now? I'm not like championing anymore, and everything starts from here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here, impulse from brain, and then you do. We know that. It's amazingly. Yes, and the power now about diversity of approach in your whole life, because I know it's many more beautiful stories how you could use your talent afterwards, right? So could you please tell us about your life further? And one of the most unique aspects of your journey is how you have used such diverse elements like fencing, mental strategy and storytelling. And I'm not opening yet, I don't want to retell everything. So how do you think then also diversity has shaped your approach in this multitasking? But first of all, tell about your choices after, when you come back from Paris, right? And your career, psychological career, and a little bit storytelling, but I'm not saying what's happened afterwards. Thank you.
Okay, so when I finished up in my time in Paris, I moved back to New York with my fiance, who I met in Paris while I was training there. And I really wanted to do a lot of different things. And I was thinking, what can I do that would make the most sense? And first I was going to be a fencing instructor, and I thought, okay, maybe I can bring some of the European level of competition to the American fencers, who at that time were not as strong as the Europeans. Mm-hmm. Certainly American fencing has come a very long way since then, but that didn't really suit me. And so I thought, well, what can I do? Let me try and work on the mental side, because I knew how important it was for me as an athlete. So I then went back to university and earned a master's degree in counseling psychology. I completed a 4-year training program in psychoanalysis, and then I got a doctorate in sport and performance psychology. So then I started a private practice, helping and working mostly with competitive athletes and performing artists. I worked and I continue to work with some clinical patients still, but the majority of my practice is working on the sport and performance side of things.
Beautiful. And actually, I came on the one comment which I actually wanted to comment about after your first question, but because now I'm training my skill to be fully present and listen. Sometimes before I could just interrupt. Oh, you know what? I have something to say. But now psychologically, I know, no, Valeria, and I have even symbol here. You should listen. You should be present and listen. And sometimes I forget, but now actually I came back because it's so important, I believe, to underline now that how you took this challenge in Paris, right? So it's actually, I am getting evidence every single day from myself and from my guests that actually it's possibility to change your approach is adversity, which actually gives us the most important chances for personal growth, right? It's like you said, it's probably the most fantastic thing because you came the very last in this competition. It now you understand it's probably not probably, but it has become the most luckiest. I don't know, event in your life, not event, but right, and because this gave you actually, I don't know. Inspiration, motivation, and really the whole your life was built about this after, and we experience really, but again it should be really so full presence and focus from your mindset and from your mental part, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing. So about what you have shared with us now, so how do you believe that diversity and inclusion, which part they are playing actually in your life, in the career, in sport, uh, because we podcast diversity is the game changer, so could elaborate about these topics a little bit more.
Of course, I think diversity is not valued enough. I think it's very easy for people to teach a certain way. If they are teachers, if they are athletic coaches, this is how we teach. This is how people learn. But everyone is going to learn a little differently because of their own strengths, their own weaknesses, their own character, their own personality. And I think it's so important to try and bridge that gap between the subject matter and the needs of that student and what it is that they're trying to learn, to use a teacher student, schema. But I think that goes with a lot of different things. I think it's the same when it comes to athletic coaching. It's the same sort of dynamic when it comes to parenting. You don't parent every child the same way because every child has different needs, and it's important to value that. And I think in my work with my clients, no client is the same. I don't have a recipe that I follow. Oh, you're on week 3, that means we're doing this, or it's week 8, we're doing that. It really comes down to the needs of that client. And because I view them as individuals and as humans first and athletes second, it's really very important to me to try and meet them where they are and try and understand what it is they are trying to do, not based on my idea of the world and, oh yes, I have all the answers. I don't. I know how to ask some of the right questions. That's all.
Yes, and I know, and I want to share the story of, I think it's a beautiful story, that you were a little bit shy and you actually didn't want to raise this subject by yourself, but I want, because I'm so grateful to you, because I'm Ukrainian and I'm from Kherson, especially critical part of Ukraine still, and I know what you've been done for my people after the war broke up. And like you said, now it's not one size fits all. It's not like to be prima donna and just to teach everybody and mentor and do that and that, but really to be adjustable, to understand and feel the context, needs, requirements, and situation of every single person, right? Because I know that you like really, please, can you share the story? about your help after the war came, and then it's really about understanding the diverse of characters, individuals, and situations, right? And
Yeah.
find the way how actually you can help the person, not from the place that, oh, I'm prima donna, I know that and that, but sometimes even just to be just there, just to support mentally. Maybe it's about actually techniques and sport, sometimes some progression, it's about other things, right? So could you please share the beautiful story how you've been. I think it's not just actually about training, but it was really like about your heart values, to be there, to do something, to help, not just, sometimes we're like, oh, what can I do? I'm just one person. But if we really do a little bit, if we can change the life or even one day for one person, we already much really, right? Because we spread our message, and this person can, because you're given a hope, and this is the most important in life. Because if you take everything from the person, but if you take hope, then it's finished.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's right. And for me, all of that also started with Giorgio Santelli. I recognized even while he was still alive, and I was working with him, and he was teaching me so much, that I remember thinking about it and saying to my family at the time that if I could help one person the way that he's helped me in my life, that I would be very content with that. And I think that's one of the reasons why I went into a helping profession, because I think, I mean, you said it at the start of the podcast, that really one of the most precious gifts is the gift of self and the gift of time, and being able to sit with someone and and be with them through their experience, whatever that experience is, whether the experience is really a very positive one and they're very happy, or it's very traumatic and very difficult. But when I, as the therapist in this situation, when I show that I am willing to walk through the hell that sometimes is the experience of my clients, then maybe they're not so afraid to confront those issues themselves.
Yes, exactly. We really underestimate the most precious gift we have every day. It's being not just producing and doing, but just being, sometimes actually, yes, just to be for that person. Sometimes we believe we know all the answers. If I do that and that, probably this person can feel better. No, sometimes really just listening actually and being. It's very important. Yes. And but now I would like, before we come to the subject, which is a very great passion for me now, it's neurodiversity, and that we have already discussed the other day, but I would like you to open a little bit more, because I know you're a little bit shy, so about storytelling. And then can you please tell us about, okay, I can open a little bit the curtain about your book and screenplays.
Well, yeah. So, because of my love of stories, fantasy, my imagination, and all of that, when I was a little boy, little Justin, my father created these stories that he told me as bedtime stories, and he used these characters, and they went on different adventures, and they solved different puzzles and went on quests and all kinds of things. And I found those stories really quite charming. And about 10 years ago, I asked my father, hey, could you just give me a document giving me the rights to those stories? And he said, yeah, I can do that, but why do you want them? I said, I don't know. Maybe I'll do something with it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So he gave me that document. In early 2020, my father, who had been in declining health for a number of years, he passed away, which was certainly not a surprise to any of us, but it was difficult for me because we were quite close. And that was right before the first COVID shutdown. And so I wasn't going into Manhattan to my office space for work anymore. So I had all of this extra time on my hands at the same time that I had all of this grief. And extra time and grief is a terrible combination.
Yeah.
But I thought, what can I do? What can I do with this time that I have? And my children were doing remote learning from home, and so there was a lot going on in all of our lives, and certainly in mine, trying to deal with this grief. So I had the idea, I'm going to write a screenplay for a Disney movie. That was my first idea. And I had never written a screenplay before. I always loved the written word, certainly, but I had never tried anything like this. And using some of the characters that my father came up with when I was a child. And so I sat down, and in my free time, I wrote the first draft of this screenplay. And I finished it in February, and at the end of February of that year of 2020. And I read the first draft to my wife and my children, and they cried, and I cried, and I thought, well, maybe there's something here beyond just the emotion. And so I found someone online who is an art director, and after he signed an NDA, I sent him a copy of the screenplay, and he said, I think this has legs. But he suggested that I turn it into a children's book, because then it would be, when I approach a studio or someone to try and develop this, the art style that I have in mind, it would be easy to see. So he helped me find 2 artists that did the illustrations, because I am not very good at drawing at all. And so in late 2021, I published the children's book. I self-published this children's book called George and the Dragon.
Okay.
And
George, was it you?
No,
No,
not me. It's not. I'm sure I'm in there somewhere, but no, that character is not exactly me. I think in some way I am all of my characters. They're all different sides, Yeah. But so then I thought, okay, I have a children's book and I have a screenplay. Now what do I do? So I went online again, and I found someone who helps people to market their screenplays. And so I've been working with him over the past couple of years. But of course, COVID has made all of that, very difficult, and changed, I think, the entertainment industry dramatically. And streaming certainly has changed the way that entertainment is consumed. So there are a lot of different variables there. But in the meantime, I wrote 2 more screenplays. So I have a full trilogy of animated stories, because once I did the first screenplay and I read that to my children said, oh, but what about this character that you told us about? And what about, oh, this other character? Oh, yes, you have to write about her. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, yes, I have a whole catalog of characters that I created for my children. So it's an intergenerational transmission from my father to me, from me to my children. And I really wanted these stories to be out there, and that's what I'm working on now, to try and develop these into something which can then be brought to a worldwide audience, because I think these are interesting stories, and some of the characters have never been seen before. They are completely different in many ways from any fictional characters that have come before.
Wow, amazing. Again, I can't stop being amazed by you, and now you understand, my beautiful audience, why I mentioned in the very beginning it's very diversified portfolio we are talking here, right? About fencing and doctorate and psychology and imagination world which you grew up. And I'm so grateful to, of course, your coach, but also to your father, that he understood it was so important for you. And also, again, he decided to use his time and made all these bad stories for you. You know, it's so important. And now you would like to, of course, transfer through the experience of your life. You would like to spread the message to many, many people. I know there are very beautiful values in them. That's why I'm encouraging everybody who is who will be watching, listening this episode now or later, if you know somebody who can help me and Justin to make this beautiful dream come true. So please follow us, follow Justin. Will be, of course, data in my post here, YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So we will be really, really happy to make this magic happen together. So and again, I will put also the name of your book, right? The George and the Dragon, right?
George and the Dragon. Yes, it's on Amazon right now.
Okay, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. So yes, and you see this storytelling and fancy and mindset. It's actually everything again are rooted, are embodied with mental well-being, mental condition. And we know also everything what's happening with physical, like sport and everything, right? It should be really in balance, in harmony with your mental condition. And unfortunately, the era we are living now, and everything what is happening, political situation and wars, very rapid digitalization, everything. It's many, of course, advantages with, I mean, not with works, of course, but the digitalization, but still, it gives us so much press and stress every single day. And people like me who has OCD, for example, or ADHD or autistic spectrum, who are neurodivergent people, probably we suffer mostly of that. And it's so important, I believe, we all collaborate, like you already mentioned, just being there and helping people on an individual scale, right? But about neurodiversity, you know, it's new subject for me, and now I started gathering more and more research because I'm included now in my PhD. But I was kind of shocked when I could read the first time that 35% of our population, it's the biggest minority, it's actually neurodivergent people. Oh my God. And then we are not speaking about just tiny part. It's actually, it means that we are in interaction with neurodivergent people, all of us, every single day, right? And it's important to remember that, unfortunately, 75% of people with neurodivergent, they are like autistic spectrum, they're unemployed, right? And because of that, 300% more chance to be depressed and suicidal. It's huge problem. And plus, with all these circumstances which I have already mentioned in the society, so I believe every single time, just minute we raise awareness about this subject, it's very important. So could you tell me, elaborate a little bit about your approach, about your vision about neurodiversity, and how we can, what we can do, how we can help people like me and other people who are struggling. And sometimes it's actually also about hope, because some days when your mind is attacking you and you don't know what it is, why, when it stops, hope sometimes really it's it's what we need, right? So we all need that. But how could you believe we can improve situation? What can we do?
I think one of the biggest problems, and this speaks to neurodiversity, but also in terms of relating between countries and between ethnic groups, between racial groups, between religious groups. We are very quick to say this other group, they are others. And you're either like me, you either look like me, or if you don't look like me, you are very different from me. And therefore, if you're different from me, then it's wrong. Then difference is seen as being wrong. And I think that is a tremendous failing, because if someone wants to pray to a God that is different from the God that you pray to, that's not a bad thing. If they find meaning in a different course of action than you do, that's okay. It doesn't have to be a right way and a wrong way. It's just a different way. I mean, to bring it back to me briefly, my fencing got better when I stopped trying to fence like other people, and I started trying to understand what made me unique as an athlete. That's what I try and do with my clients, to help them to understand what makes them unique as athletes or as performers in their chosen art form or sport. I think we all need to embrace that more. Someone is not inherently my friend because they look like me, or inherently my enemy because they don't look like me. In the same way that someone from a different country is not necessarily my enemy any more than someone from my country is necessarily my friend. It comes down to individuals making a difference, trying to make a difference. If you can move the needle just a little bit, if you can just improve things a little bit for yourself or for people around you, people you know, people you don't know, I think that will all move things in a more positive direction.
Thank you so much. I immensely appreciate you, and I'm so agree. If we really, if I'm using your words, put a needle just a little bit. It's about flexibility, about just our lens like this, but if we try to make a little bit broad, it's sometimes, and take courage doing that by being a role model, and then probably person who is in your family or at your work environment look at you and be inspired, oh, okay, wow, really. It's about respect and be a little bit open, yes, because we always don't. It's challenging when something is different, because it's like you said, it's being comfortable with something, being uncomfortable. It's exactly what was your strategy. But this is also the beauty of it, right? Look at biodiversity. We love it, right? Because it's so different. We love making botanic gardens and everything, because look, if we came to botanic garden, all the roses was exactly the same. It's then for us oh, okay. So yes, I also encourage you, we should embrace more and understand and respect that, yes, we are beautiful planet because we are so diverse, and every single person is a unique resource and source, right? So then we can probably have less conflicts and everything. Thank you so much. And this episode is actually very suitable for my tradition, because it's about magic and fairy tales, right? And we have been having this everybody say red thread. My color is pink. I love pink, so it's pink thread. It was magic and knights and swords. The whole episode was very beautiful. So, but about the fairy tale I'm using at the end, it's actually not with sword or but this one. What is it?
That's it looks like a genie's lamp.
Exactly. This is genie's lamp. Pink one, of course, and but it's a bit a tricky one. It's already have, actually, because you are my beautiful guest number 15, so already inside 15 wishes I'm working at, right? but because I want to make at least to try to make a good things and wish to one person. So you need, but I still have place for your wish as well, but not 3, unfortunately, because if I am making like one wish, then it will be nice. It will be fair, right? Every person. But what that would be for you today? This magical wish,
A
little
magical.
or a little bit grown up Justin, or they together, what they would wish for.
I think if I had one wish that I would like to be granted, it's simply for everyone to be recognized and acknowledged for who they are as individuals, not being defined by their country of origin, not being defined just by their family, but who they are as individuals. And I think if everyone were recognized for what it is that they can do, then there wouldn't be this stigma of neurodiversity of, oh, you can't do it the way that someone else can do it, therefore you're worse. But being able to acknowledge and recognize people for who they are.
Thank you so much. I think it's a magical, really beautiful wish. And now, yes, I can see it's yes in the right place. Safe.
Excellent.
So just wow, it was beautiful story. Your life and everything what we experienced last hour, and I'm really grateful again for your time and attention and sharing your story. And I really encourage you all people, please listen this story, and we should definitely make this how you say trilogy in English, right?
Trilogy.
Okay. Yes. So Justin, thank you so much. It's been an incredible honor to have you, and it was very insightful conversation. Your ability to integrate the mind body diverse influences into multiple activities is truly inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today.
Thank you.
And for all listeners, I would like just to not just, but I would like really to thank you all of our beautiful audience, because you are also giving me your time, your precious time, if when you are listening. So I'm very, very thankful for that. And please stay with us, share this episode. You are more than welcome coming to me with your comments or wishes, or you can of course reach Justin, and you can reach me to give the context of Justin. So, and to our listeners, I just would like to remind one thing that you should remember, and I was inspired by you, Justin. There are many ways to be successful in fencing, just like there are many ways to approach mental challenges. Integrating diverse mental strategies might mean tapping in different schools of thought and beliefs, right? And really, religion, like we already discussed. Either practicing mindfulness and presence or using cognitive techniques to address negative self-talk. But what is the most important? It's to expose yourself to diverse practice that resonates to you, with your soul, with your core values. Because diversity broadens your approach and creates a deeper connection with yourself. Thank you so much. And until next time. Thank you, Jess, for being with us.